Hello, everybody. Today I'm here with Remi. Just to remind, my name is Igor. I'm with Corsac Technologies and I help companies with software modernization. Remi, please present yourself.
Yeah, so nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Remi. I'm a fractional CFO and also a leadership coach, and I work a lot with entrepreneurs to help them better organize their business and making sure that they are in a well position to actually grow, but also sometimes to sell or develop their business in a way or the other. I think we actually talking right, Igor, about how we prepare for rapid growth and what breaks first. Yes, and I think that was the idea of the call today. And one of the things I've realized most of the times is when companies start growing, the first thing that get sticky is the cash. We realize that we take decisions based on things like sales and the revenue, and we're sometimes very happy about how we sign a new contract, but we don't automatically have sometimes an understanding of what's the impact of this in the cash. I have one of my clients was very happy about a big contract he signed. It had not $1 million per month additional, and so he was very happy about it. We soon realized that actually he needed $3 million in cash to be able to serve that client, and so suddenly it become a very big mess for him to actually manage that and had to bring cash from multiple subsidiaries to make that happen. So for a nice client that on paper looks nice, but in reality create an havoc in the whole organization, actually put at risk the whole organization, not that subsidiary, but all subsidiaries around. So cash is one of the things that we don't automatically look very well into our business. And actually, I'm working with a lot of clients right now where the work we are doing is helping them build some cash flow forecasts to have them sure that whatever they decide in terms of business is actually showing properly into the bank and to the financial impact that they have. So that I think for me is one of the things that show very, very quickly, especially when you, I don't know if you saw that Igor in your side, but when you have a small business, it's easy to manage the cash because you don't have too much transactions to go through. There's simple movements in and out, but as your business start growing more, then the number of transactions increases. There is more clients, there is more suppliers, there is more people to pay, and then taxes and all this that comes in, and then suddenly we don't get more control on all of that, and there is too much transaction to take care of. And you have a good finance team, maybe they are able to do that. But if you're not, if you're still managing the business as you used to do before, then something at some point doesn't work, and you get into the end of the month and says, "Oh, how am I going to pay my salaries? Or how am I going to pay that supply that I need to pay?" That's for me just one of the first sign of growth that starts to show. And then once that cash is put into control, then you have more chances to be able to start planning the business. And so when you acting as a small business, you can go on case by case. You have one client won, and then you start adapting and serving that client. But we start having a lot of clients, and then you have to have understanding what are the resources that you're going to need over the period of time, and how is it going to affect not only your profitability but your cash in all days. So part of the work I'm doing with some of the clients, I have a few clients right now that are quite big already. They have already maybe billing more than 10 millions per month per year, quite already established, sometimes 5, 10, 20 years in business. But they are unable to actually project themselves and see what's the impact of what's going on in their businesses. So the work we do is actually helping them put some system in place so that they can actually understanding how the business is working months by months, but also be able to plan for a longer view. And when you're growing, want to rapid growth, you will need cash. And then that planning that you're doing, the budget planning or the reporting planning that you do, is what is the main tool that you're going to use to actually convince investors or bankers to finance that rapid growth that you have. So if you don't have proper finance in place, no one is going to come and help you. You need to be able to prove that your tool is going, your system is going to work, and you can be able to explain when you understand that you might need cash at some point in the other. So that for me is one of the places I think is important when rapid growth. Um, the other thing that I've seen coming through in those businesses that are growing or getting to what I call the growing pains is processes.
Okay,
We've been able.
let me first, sorry, let me interrupt you a little bit. Yeah, I want to just add my perspective
Yeah, go
from
ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, from my side about cash. Like you get cash when you get more clients, and when you get more clients, your system from technical perspective may not be ready for that. A
Hmm.
very simple example to that is that let's say you have 100 users, and then on the next month you have 10,000 users, or you have 100,000 users. So that actually touches your systems on on a very big amount of points where it may break. And the first one is its general system scalability, for example, cloud scalability.
Hmm.
So your databases increases drastically. The load on your servers increases drastically. You may face issues which you never faced before, and to which your team may not be ready at all.
Hmm.
Next point is ERP integrations and CRM integrations. So when you have more clients, you have more contractors, you have more added services, you need to manage all of that better. And managing that becomes a process. Like when you have 100 users or 1,000 users, you can still do lots of things manually. You can still have your developers respond to support tickets, for example. You can still
Hmm.
send them something and they'll figure it out somehow without seriously disrupting their work. But when you have 10,000 users, when you have 100,000 users, a million users, the support team, because the support request require a support team, which requires separate processes, which requires separate KPIs, so on and so forth. And
Hmm.
you need to establish those processes in order to manage that part of the work.
Hmm.
Another point is, again, reporting and KPIs. Again, when you have a smaller amount of uh, money that you're receiving from the clients and smaller amount of clients, you are monitoring less KPIs in your system. And when your system grows, I mean, it's standard question. It's like you don't know what you don't know. With time, your requirements increase, and you start looking into more correlations in your system. You start looking
Okay.
into
Yeah.
how much we spend on that service, how much we spend on that service, how we can improve that. For example, do we need to change one cloud solution provider to a different cloud solution provider? What will be
Yeah.
the price of scaling our system from 10,000 users to 1 million users, for example, so on and so forth. And it's important to understand that those problems which the client faces, getting more cash and getting more clients, are the problems which the company may not know how to deal with at the initial stages whatsoever. That's why, for example, there are fractional CTOs who launch the product, or fractional CTOs who launch the product, and fractional CTOs who run the product. And those are different people,
Hmm.
and because they solve different problems.
Yeah.
And that basically gradually takes us to the processes that you started to speak
Well,
about.
actually, I like to come back to this point that you're saying. It's quite interesting
Yeah.
that you're saying that. First, I want thing to react. One thing is that it's not because we have more clients that we have more cash. That's I think that's for me is the one thing I've always noticed. Sometimes we grow clients, but it doesn't mean we have cash. If we are actually collecting the money, we not have cash. The second thing is actually was very important about what you're saying is that as systems your company grows, the complexity grows, and so transactions, databases, connections between systems, complexity of the analysis we're doing. So maybe we just analyzing first just number of sales, but now we want to do number of sales by type of product, by type of line of business, by geography, by sailors, and all of that gets more and more complex. And what you're coming back with this KPI is saying, what you're saying, okay, we need to have more complexities there, and all of that has a cost. And you're saying, okay, maybe I need to change our system to go from, like I said before, 10,000 users to a million users, that is a cost that sometimes you have to think about. Okay, how do am I ready to do this investment? And so you have the CTO side of things and says, I need that to make this operational. Then their finance, my side of the finances says, okay, does that make sense in terms of business, and how are we going to cover that, or how are we going to finance that? Because it makes sense, but sometimes we have to invest ahead of time. And so that comes back to this, what we were saying before about planning the business, planning the budget, seeing how it's growing, and then we can say, okay, there is a justification why we need to start investing right now, because in 3 months or 6 months, we're going to hit that bottleneck into our data, and we have to make it happen. So I think I'm reconnecting to what you're saying there, Igor, about systems and how we have the scalability of systems. And I think that my point I was going to get into scalability of system more in terms of processes or so, in the sense of, I don't know, you've probably seen that too in when you're working with clients, is that in small businesses there is a lot of things that are manual, or doing with simple tools like Excel or Google Sheets. One of my clients is actually is managing his. He's been 30 years in the business. He was managing his warehouse with just paper. And now last year he decided to move to Google Sheet, and it was a great advance for him to have a Google Sheet. Now we're trying to move that person from Google Sheet to actually a proper system of inventory. But that kind of things stop your growth, right? If you actually, depending on a piece of paper that you move from here to here, then it takes time dealing with paper. If you can integrate things and suddenly have systems speaking to each other, then you can speed up the process in a way. And I think that's somehow what I guess a role on CTU is actually helping people thinking, well, your systems are not speaking the same language. They are not really integrated, right? I guess that's what you were telling me the other day. Is how we can make those things work properly so that we can save time, not figuring out what's the source of truth here. Is the ERP the source of truth, or is the CRM the source of truth, or is it uh, some other database that is actually managing all of that? So I think what I've seen all of the time is that we have things that have been built by department. The finance guy want to have his ERP, says, no, that's my truth. And then the sales guy have my CRM, and that, no, that's my truth. And we have those fights coming in and making sure that that works. For me, that's one of the things. So process is important, and you can use automation and have systems in place, put in the right tools, like you said. But there is also a part of not just the system itself, but the process in the sense of decision and making sure that there is a decision process behind, there is a delegation process behind that actually allow people to take decisions, and what are the level of decision that you can make. So when an organization grows and you can add layers of people above in terms of who is taking the lead in different things, then you have to figure out what are the rules of saying, oh, Igor, you can do that up to this level. After this level, you have to ask to this person, and this person, if you go to this level, have to ask someone else. So escalation processes is important when you're actually starting building those tools. I don't know if that speaks to you a little bit, Igor, about the processes. What's your thoughts about processes?
Yeah. I can say from like a team of 5 developers, a team of 5 can still talk informally to each other and do the work informally, and they can do great things up to a certain level. Then, when they grow to a team of 20, they cannot talk informally to each other anymore. First of all, the team of 5 is not, it's not just multiplied by 4. And the team of 20 is not a team of 5 multiplied by 4. That's a very different team. Now you have different position. Now you have different hierarchy. Now you have different relations, and you need to have the processes established properly. So you need somebody to actually establish those processes and make sure that those processes work. Because if they don't, and they keep talking informally to each other like when they were 5, that can be a mess, a total mess. When they get to 50, now it's a completely different world again. Now you have separate departments. Now you have teams. Now you have departments. Now you have separate roles within those departments who are very, very specialized. And again, somebody needs to establish those processes. And all of that, as you say, like it needs to be taken into account while planning the business ahead and while planning, like, for example, increase, like when planning how your client base will increase. You understand that with
Mhm.
the amount of, I don't know, 1,000 clients, you need a team of 5. With the amount of 10,000 clients, you need a team of 10. With the amount of million clients, now you need a team of 50. And all those processes needs to be aligned with that growth. And founders who do not understand technical implications of the changes of their staff, of their technical staff, and who do not have experienced CTO to manage that, or director of development, whoever it is
Mhm.
there, they will face very serious problems. I mean, I can name a few out like right away, which most companies face. Problem number one: bus factor. Bus factor is when you have one senior engineer who knows most of the system. If the
Mhm.
person leaves the company, or as we joke about it, if the bus hits that person, everything's dead.
Mhm.
Which
Yeah.
means that that person leaving the company is a disaster. That's
Yeah.
thing number one. Thing number two, getting to know the system is a very big problem because nobody except for him or her knows that. Uh, Problem number three, onboarding new people. Let's say you're hiring somebody. If there is a buzz factor and there is one, or let's say one or couple of senior engineers who know how everything works and they keep all that knowledge, and yes, they do know how everything works, but when you need to increase the size of the team, you need to onboard the engineers, for example, who are responsible for a certain part of that system.
Yeah.
And now you need to transfer them the knowledge which they need to continue the development or do some work there, or let's say they will be providing maintenance to that part of the system, whatever they do. If the buzz factor exists as a phenomenon in the company, this transfer of knowledge is not actually a transfer
Won't
of knowledge
happen.
at all. It's just like the person starts doing it and the next half a year figures out how everything works. But if everything were documented properly from the beginning, or at least from a certain stage, from the beginning, again, let's be realistic. No startups ever document anything from the beginning. That's impossible. It's, by the way, much less a problem now with
Some of the
AI.
software that actually do
Like
that
right
for
now,
you. Yeah.
AI kind of solved it. Yeah, AI kind of solved this problem because you can now kind of automatically document things,
Yeah.
and which actually it's very cool and it's a very big deal for the developers. It takes so much pain away from them. So let's get back. And when you onboarding the person, now the onboarding actually costs the company lots of money, and that's your question, by the way. How much
Well, no,
onboarding costs? Yeah,
well,
that's your
actually,
question,
what?
and you
But
don't
there's a
you
good.
and and you don't know that. That's the problem, and that's a very big problem for the company. You don't know that because uh, the time comes that passes from the time when the developer starts the position and starts actually bringing value to the position, it's huge if your
In
processes are
my
not
in my in my
documented, not very
experience,
well
is
established.
usually at least 6 months.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And
in
that's a,
IT or finance, yeah, it's the same kind of things. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, all those problems they can be seen from my perspective and from your perspective, because I know that
Yeah.
uh, the developer will need next several months or maybe like literally half a year to figure out how everything works until the developer starts actually bringing some value and doing things independently and not just bugging the senior engineer. Uh,
Yeah.
on your side, you need to understand how much an employee will cost and how much the onboarding process will cost. So you would understand while scaling how much money you will get and so on and so forth. And again, that's not an easy question to solve. And that's the
Well,
question
actually,
that every single startup faces over time if they
that's
survive.
interesting. This saying, yeah, that's interesting. You're saying that is. I worked a long years in sales driven organization, and that was exactly the work we're trying to do in terms of figuring out how we actually speed up the learning curve for salespeople joining the organization,
Yeah.
because that's exactly the thing. Maybe on the sales side, some people might grow in 3 to 4 months, sometimes six. But in complex roles like IT guys, developers that actually have to be ready to understand a very part of of a complex development process, the time that they get up to speed in that takes a lot of time. Finance people, the same time. You have to actually understanding the whole concepts of that. So it takes time to make that happen. So during that time, you're not fully productive. So we will build things, models where we can think about, well, that person will be productive at 10% and at 20 and then 40% and 50%. So you have to build that in to say what's the contribution they're bringing over time, and that has an effect in your costs, in your investment, right? There's one thing that you thought about that before that I thought quite interesting is, I think you call it the buzz factor. I've seen a
Plus
lot
factor.
of places, yeah, a lot of places people actually resist. They don't want to share because
Yeah,
if they share, they feel that they're going to lose their
they
job.
become exactly,
Yeah, and so
exactly,
they're not sharing.
exactly,
I see
and they will
very good,
sabotage.
yeah, they will sabotage. So they will say, sales guys, I see the IT guys doing that, but sales guys doing, I'm not going to train anyone because it's my secret. That's how I'm getting my top
Exactly.
$1 million per whatever, because they sell $1 million every month because they have all their secret, but they don't want to share the secret with anyone else. And like you said, I was in an organization that had they lost in the space of 2 weeks. They lost the whole headquarter, well, the whole director level and leadership level in 2 weeks. So we lost 15 people, right? All those people were salespeople. All the people below were no salespeople. So in 2 weeks' time, we killed the company. We had to rebuild all the sales from scratch because of that sense of I not sharing anything and you're destroying
Mhm.
everything. So when all information is focused on concentrating in one person, then you're creating this bottleneck, and is creating a bottleneck that's actually putting the whole organization at risk. Even sometimes we say, well, this guy's an expert. We're glad we have him. But when that person leave, then there's nothing else. Everything falls
Yeah,
down, right? Yeah. I think that's what
yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
doing.
Yeah, this silent. Moreover, the sabotage is usually silent. You don't really know
Yeah.
that there's sabotage on it. It's just
Yeah.
like they're doing something and they're doing their work, and at the same time, they're not really sharing that knowledge, which is extremely important to do the job, and so
Mm-hmm.
that other people which are being onboarded, they do not start bringing value earlier, and
Yeah.
they do not get to know something. And moreover, um, there is also the problem, which is very specific. It is very specific to um, development. It may be absolutely related to what you do, but I will just say it from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, let's say you have a senior engineer who has been working for you for 20 years. He has great knowledge. Yeah, he knows everything about the system. But the problem, and he's extremely valuable for the company. He doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay. So everything's
Yeah.
fine there. But the principles, how he works, he's been following them for 20 years. And the technologies, the approaches, the processes, they kind
The
of moved.
languages, the
They already
tools.
moved. They already,
Yeah.
they moved forward.
Yeah.
And yes, it helped him to be successful there. Yes, it helped him to maintain the system. But the new people who come to the positions around him, they will be under this constant burden of supervision from the person who will be literally forcing them to follow some other procedures which may be outdated, or some other procedures and processes which are, let's say, traditional to this company, which by no means mean that they are good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
things are, it's like it's the standard case is like,
We
it
all
works, don't touch. Yeah, it
we
works,
always
don't
did
touch.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's not a good position when, for example, you're trying to modernize the system, because
Exactly.
the person who wrote the older system may have challenges writing the same system on newer technologies, following newer approaches. And again, he can be extremely valuable for the company and still retain his job. Everything's fine there, but it doesn't mean that he can be successful managing the new um,
Teams.
efforts.
Yeah.
Yeah, managing the new teams. Yeah, or integrating into the processes of a bigger team. He can be a
What
very
also,
successful senior engineer in the team of 10, but in a team of 100, he may not be the main senior engineer again,
Yeah.
because that may not be the level, or that might not be the skill set or experience, and he can get lost in, like, he can again sabotage the new processes because he's not used to them, and he's been following other processes for the previous 20 years.
Yeah.
That's a very big problem, and
But
that
have you
problem is faced by most of the companies who exist for several decades.
have you experienced that with Agile and Scrum? Because I've actually had
Sure.
one client was actually that they were trying to implement Agile methodology in an organization that was very old, and
Yeah.
a lot of resistance there because some of the younger
Yeah,
people
yeah.
that were there says, okay,
And
Agile,
they
okay, but
understand only waterfall. And they
yeah,
understand
and
waterfall. I understand. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then the other
Exactly.
ones, no, and we always did like that. We don't want to think about this way of doing
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was a lot of resistance
Yeah.
coming
Exactly.
through that, right? And that's why I say,
Moreover, what we experience is like, okay, we want to introduce agile. Good. Give me the budget for the next year. I have no idea. That's the point. I mean, I would assume that this would be the budget, but okay, we are introducing agile. I mean, I can assume something. Of course, I can assume a certain thing. Of course, but
yeah,
can I give you the exact budget for this entire project? No, that's
yeah,
agile. I cannot give you the exact budget for the entire project. That's exactly why we're doing agile. But the again, the finance person telling me I need the budget for the project. Okay, like what do
yeah.
we do with it?
That's where finance have to distinguish the difference between a budget and a reforecast. And I think when you're working on this way, you have to think about reforecasting on a regular basis, understanding how
Yeah,
you adjust your vision, because that's how things are working in some way, right? Um, it's quite interesting because there is a lot of I've worked a lot with developers, a lot of work with finance. On my leadership and executive coaching side of business, I work with those different roles, and I see similarities on both sides. So on the fractional side is finances. Okay, let's put things in place and make that happen. But my vision on that is usually is working from the business perspective. I'm more of a business partner in finance, so I'm trying to understand the business first and then see how finance support it. And so that's my view about say, okay, for example, CTOs I worked before says, okay, we need to do this and this and this. Okay, so that's the investment we need to do. Okay, let's see how we can plan that ahead of time, that makes sense. And if there is really a business case behind it, let's find a way to actually find the resources to make that happen, right? You want to have finance as a as a partner to collaborate and make things work, and not just the one that says no, don't spend. you know the no, you spent too much this month. Stop spending. That's not constructive. So we need to figure out a way to manage the business in a way that we're still managing, avoiding risks, protecting the cash, but also invest in the right place. And that's where sometimes this bit more of a medium long term view allows us to actually have the proper discussion and say, okay, you want to do this, so this is like previous colleagues in IT say, okay, well, we need to change the server next year. Okay, we need to change 30 computers in that company. All right, what else we need to do? Well, there is this renegotiation of this software that has to happen, and that renegotiation. We think we can go down, or we think we can actually no, we have to go up because suddenly we have 10 times more users and we need to have more database or more access, or you're using cloud and we need to have more access there and it's starting to be more expensive. All of that is integrating to that solution. So we can think, okay, now we need to think that our budget in IT next year will increase maybe 10%. How do we cope with that? What else we need to do around that? So I think that's an interesting part. So yeah, definitely cash and process and systems are quite upfront into the growth approach. There's another thing that I've came across. I don't know if you come across that, Igor, and is the mindset shift that you need to do when things are growing. So when you're leading a company of 5 people, you're not in the same mindset when you're leading a team of 20, then you're not in the same mindset when you're leading a team of 50 or 100 or 1,000 people, right? And you have to change your identity. And one of the
yeah,
things I see more frequently happening is people hiring people below them, but not um, releasing the control. So they want to be fully
Yes.
in control of it. So they are still hiring people. So I have more people working for me, but I'm still trying to control everything. And they get to a point that everything is stopped again, right? And at some another level of growth is that those leaders that you are hired now are hiring themselves leaders. And so now we're leading through leaders, and that's a different way of skills that we have to figure out. And the
Yeah.
one last thing I will add on that is the typical thing that I see everywhere is that we promote the best technicians or the best guys, the best, in this case, I mean, I don't know if this case in development, but the best developer becomes a team lead developer. The best finance guy becomes a team lead finance guy, or the best sales guy becomes the team lead in sales. But sometimes those guys are maybe very good technically in their roles, but they are
Yes.
poor leaders. They are very bad, and they actually destroy teams in something. So for me, this part of mindset is not something like a fluffy thing that we need to think about. It's really an important thing about understanding who are we putting in those roles. Who do we have the right people in the right place? How we help people change the mindset about what's their role in that, and how they can really achieve success in that growth. Because it relies at the end to understand the vision of where we're trying to go and how we make things happen, and then we have the right people to do that, right? I don't know. Have you seen something come across these kind of problems too, Igor?
I've personally faced it myself many times. We had some cases again, even in our company, we had cases when obviously you promote better people. That's kind of self-explanatory thing.
Yeah,
And the person is very technical, very skilled, very hardworking, and completely lacks leadership skills.
yeah,
And I mean, it seems like the person has leadership skills because the person has respect in the team, so other people are kind of listening to the person. But it doesn't mean that the person can manage other people.
yeah,
And that doesn't mean that the person can, for example, share work amongst other people. And what I've seen many times is that the person starts just to grab more work for himself and trying to do everything that way, overloading himself, and people in his team are underloaded, and they're complaining that, okay, like what do we do, like he took all the stuff, like we don't do anything, and or we do just very little, and we only spend like 30% of our time productively, all the other time we're just complaining that we're not doing anything. And I personally seen it many times, many times. I've seen it in my company. I've seen it in other
other
companies. It's a
places.
very
Yeah,
common problem. Yeah, it's a very common problem, and it's very common in development companies specifically because you promote best engineers. Best engineers does not mean the best leader.
yeah,
That's the number one. But from the other side, there is also a problem when the owner does not want to let go. So when the owner does not want to let go of the control and tries to do all the same stuff that the owner was doing for the previous, I don't know, 5, 10, whatever years,
yeah,
because those processes allowed the owner to survive up until now. So those
yeah,
processes are by default considered to be efficient. But that's not the case when the company starts to scale. I can give a very like a good example. I saw myself when in our company when the owner, well, like me and my business partner,
mhm,
we saw that we cannot manage the developers directly anymore. We just cannot do it because we try to, but it doesn't work out because the amount of people rises, the amount of projects increases, and we cannot cope with all of the day-to-day things, and we start to lose things and we start to make mistakes. We become the bottleneck. So we got one guy who became the developer, the director of development, and his sole goal is to establish the processes in the company so that the developers are communicating with each other normally and solving all the issues and problems in the process. Basically the director of development.
Yeah.
And it worked. Actually,
Mhm.
it worked a lot. Like
But
we
but
got
but,
much
but
more free time.
but what need to happen for you to decide that? Because there's usually a shift. You've been doing this way, and something has to happen for you that says, "I'm fed up of that
Oh, you
situation."
you
You
need to
try to.
face. Yeah, you need to look in the mirror and understand that you failed. It's like you if you keep doing it like this, you'll just fail.
Yeah.
Everything will flop because
Yeah.
you cannot cope with it, and you are not supposed to cope with it like that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like when I was much younger, one of my first jobs, like literally my first jobs, about 15 years ago,
Hmm.
uh, I participated in the process of a company restructuring. It wasn't related to anything technical at the time. And there was a problem of, so they hired like a consultancy company which restructured the company because they were growing and they wanted to make things better, so on and so forth. It was, again, nothing related to technical. And I was in the project team to run this restructuring procedure. So
Hmm.
I kind of oversaw how this restructuring works out and helped to fix things in the process. And the biggest problem was the CEO. Like if we take the CEO out of equation, everything worked perfectly fine. But when the CEO returns in the equation, he just breaks everything. And he was extremely motivated, very motivated to run it. He
Continue.
wanted to make things better, but he just completely could not let it go. And he kept
Mm.
things in his old way, and the project literally failed. Like we worked on that for about a year. It failed. Then I left them. And then in a few years, I learned that they run it again. And the CEO left, the owner who was the CEO left the position of CEO and hired a CEO, and it worked. And I thought that the guy became much wiser. Like he understood his problem and he actually managed to go through it. Because if
Yeah.
he didn't, he would just stay the
Yeah,
same.
and then the problem will repeat. Well, actually, I live in my own life. At some point, I was in a role that I had 16 people reporting to me directly, just all directly to me. And I was working like 16 hours per day. I was working weekends and nights, and it you I was trying to make that things happen. So I was firefighting all the time, and I have my
Yeah.
team probably leaving at 5 o'clock. And when they were leaving at 5, I thought, finally I can do my job,
Yes.
because the rest of the day I was firefighting and trying to solve problems all the time. And it had different things happen to me, but family stress, because no one is you don't see your family anymore. But there was see things like, because I was getting tired and tired and tired, I started getting more problems coming. Instead of solving problems, there were more problems being created. I did a big mistake into one of my reports, and I was thinking I was going to lose my job at some point. But there's plenty of different things that happens, and then you realize something doesn't happen. Something is not clear here. Why am I working 16 hours if I have a team of 16 people? So that's how you net something things you have to think about. How do you really use your team properly? And that's when for me was the light bulb moment in it. How do I make that team capable of doing more? And then so that I spend more time on inverting the system. That's what I'm actually, my coaching with people is about helping them grow their teams. Is about how do you make that team really efficient and empowered so that they can take decision. Actually, most of the time is actually the leader, the leader that's
Yeah.
actually blocking and stopping everything. As soon as the leader starts releasing some of the control, I'm not saying that it's like one day to the other, it takes time and it takes work. But once you do that in a certain way, you can actually allow that transition to happen. And suddenly, not only the work's done, then you have innovation coming in, new ideas coming in, creativity coming in that actually allow business to grow in a different way. And so the guy says, well, maybe we should try it this way. Oh, we never tried this way, but that's a good idea. Let's try this way. And then you can start saying things that are coming, and you can start building up the group intelligence, and not just having one person deciding and this has all the only truths, right? That I mean, like the example you were saying before about the old guy that actually said, I always did like that, so I don't want to change the way I'm doing things. So it's stopping creativity to come in, innovation to come in, or even adjustment. I was just thinking about this colleague of mine in one business. We just implemented an ERP. It took us, I don't know how much. It took 3 months to install the ERP, but then we had another year of fixing things. And I go to see her, and she was in accounting. I go to see her and she was calculating things with, the calculator, but those calculators with paper, those things that the accountants say. And she was actually looking at a table, a report, and she was calculating by hand. Says, but you know that this report has a total at the end that actually gives you the total. I don't trust that. I don't trust that report. I had another situation with a tax auditor that doing the same thing. It was, I can send you the Excel file, it would be easier. Yeah. And he was taking the Excel file and was looking line by line and was, but you have a total there, I can understand.
Yeah, it's like an old joke. Like we are now, like this joke I remember this joke from about 16 years ago, like 2010ish, when like now our company has electronic documents. So let's keep everything electronic, but first let's print everything out just for a copy. That's the exact thing. So you have an Excel sheet, but you're still gonna use your calculator.
Yeah. Well, I led a project of dematerialization from paper to digitalization in one of my organizations, and just by taking out there was a room that actually was this bedroom, like it's double of this place with all filing cabinets, just filling with paper, and then some of them we start scanning because it was important, but some of them we had just to throw them away. So there's no sense. These things are older than 7 years, and we have so many paper and people. The invoice had actually been printed 4 times because for each department wanted a copy of the invoices. Well, let's stop that thing. And I think that's when you start changing process and make that happen, then you start being much more efficient in the process that we're doing, and business starts working in different ways, right? But you have to face a lot of resistance, and sometimes the resistance is at the owner side. Sometimes it's just one colleague that is very resistant to change. It's quite interesting to see that process going on. But it's also a very interesting moment when you see business growing, because sometimes there is cash available, there's investment ready, and things are growing. People see that they can grow, but you need to change the mindset, change the vision to have people grow in a way that is sustainable. Some way, right?
Yeah, and it motivates people actually a lot. Like obviously you want to work in a successful business. Anybody wants to work in a successful business, no matter if you're owner of this business or not owner of this business. But it's not the only thing which needs to motivate you in the process. And I would say that to add to what we discussed before, proper leadership in the teams is also extremely important for motivation here. And I'm speaking specifically from the perspective of establishing proper processes and giving an example how to run things and how to continue running things successfully. Because when you have a team lead who is not stuck on something for many years, and you can see that the team lead or the manager or the CTO is trying new things. You see that the person is actually following, does what he preaches, like the standard principle, does what he preaches. When you see that the problems are solved in a fair manner, and you can see that the leadership solves the problems creatively and thinking broadly, looking for interesting solutions, and not just closing their eyes on the problems. Or, by the way, which is also a big problem, not just throwing money at the problems, because that's what very often happens when business gets more money. I mean, they just start throwing money at the problem, as if money,
endless speech.
Yeah, as if the money will solve the problem. Like the money may help you to close your eyes for some time, but the problem's still there. That also motivates people a lot. I mean, that personally motivated me a lot in the past when I saw my managers working properly and doing what they preach, solving problems creatively, so on and so forth. And all of those qualities, they are very important when the business scales. Because if the manager is stuck in the old ways, when the business gets to a new stage, that's not going to go very far.
No.
And that will something that will hit for sure.
And just to get to the point you're saying is that for me is what I call a collective intelligence, right? It's when you have more people involved into this creative mode of finding solutions, bringing ideas, you get input from different places, and you can see it's a bit like you if you're driving at high speed, you just very focus on what's in front of you, you have this tunnel vision of what you're doing. But if you have people around looking at the side and say, well, be careful, there is a car coming through, or there is a truck coming through, just be careful of that. But if you just focus, maybe you don't see the truck coming through, right? And I think that's the ability of when you start working with your team and engaging more with them and finding solutions, creative solutions, they start bringing those solutions and they
Yes.
start bringing input to say, oh, I just saw this new tool here and I never heard before, and they bring it to the system. Have you heard about this? Have you heard about that? And then suddenly you start not just using the four pencil that you have, then suddenly you have like a whole bunch of crayons that you can play in all colors because a lot of people are bringing new ideas, and that's how you make that thing strong. And I think one of the things I realized in that process is being able to say as a leader, I don't know, I have no solution for that, but let's figure out together. Be able to be a bit vulnerable sometimes in that situation, open people to actually come to you and say, okay, let me see if I can bring some ideas too. Let's think
Yeah.
together about the solution. And that's one of the things that actually for me it's has made a lot of change into the way of approaching leadership in the past. And I've been leading a lot of teams in across the world, but
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting part of too. Yeah,
It empowers people a lot.
yeah,
It shows them that they mean something, that they can contribute to the bigger success, and that their role, even if it's not very big as they think, uh, actually makes difference. And when they are, I mean, when they are at some kind of meeting to find a solution, they are all bringing it together in the like, common pot. They can see that they also mean something. So having that dynamics in the team is great.
yeah.
It's great, and it's actually I believe that this is a quality of a very good leader if the leader can create such a dynamic in the team when everyone feels that they can make difference, whatever, however small their role is.
Yeah. But I like the term you say is empowered because when your
Yeah,
team is empowered, then they don't need you automatically to be there all the time. So it
yeah,
allows you
exactly, exactly.
they can take decisions, they can be creative about solutions, they can take initiatives, and you know that I can go away for the weekend or for a vacation somewhere and I don't have to worry because I know that my team is going to find a solution. My team is going to take the right decisions because we've been building a system, a vision that people are aligned to the right directions. They have the ideas, they know how to work together. I'm working on a workshop that I have to go on Thursday about it, and it's actually about a leadership team of a big company, and we're trying to help them work together. And sometimes that's another problem when you get to the different layers. Companies grow so big that they work in silos. There's no more communication at the top level. So how you rebuild that thing together? So there's different phases, I guess, into the growth of an organization. But maintaining that vision across the organization, maintaining that creativity, maintaining that empowerment, innovation, builds strong team, that's a strong base where a company can grow. It's not in the head of the owner, it's in the organization anymore. I've seen companies where they're trying to sell, but all the knowledge is in the head of the owner. And so if you take out the owner, the company doesn't work anymore. So back to this idea of process and leadership, bring this, extract all this knowledge, put into written process, train people so that the knowledge stays in the organization. That you can take out the leader and sell it to someone else, and it's still working because now you have an organization. I think when you're looking about, I think you've worked sometimes with merger and acquisition. You want to, in a company that's actually buying an organization, want to be sure that what I'm buying, there is value in it, right? And not just not getting out with the owner. I'm buying something, and I can replicate, grow it, make it happen to be bigger, and then there's a benefit from it, right? Well, I think Igor,
Yeah.
we covered.
By the way, mergers and acquisitions, and technical and financial side is certainly something that we can discuss on our future talks. I believe so.
Yeah,
That's
maybe
going
we
to be
can.
very, yeah, that's a very good topic. And again, from technical perspective, there is a lot you can do to prepare for M&A, a lot,
Yeah,
and you need to start doing it long years in advance if you are planning to sell.
yeah,
And again, from financial perspective as well. I mean,
yeah.
I
I think
don't have. We did help some of our clients to sell, so we did some preparations, and I've personally never went through mergers and acquisitions myself with the company, but I did help clients to do it.
yeah.
So I can
So I
probably
think
say
you
something.
were, I think you were telling me before that you were so thinking that sometimes we need to figure out the whole system pack of the organization before we sell them or before they buy them, so that we can optimize the cost. Right? I think that's what you were telling me the other
Yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think that's it. I think we had a great conversation, and I think we
Well,
have the topic for the next one. So let's certainly keep it rolling.
thank you, Igor.
And
Thank you for inviting and for the conversation.
thank you, Remi. I think
It was a
it was a
great
great talk.
conversation. All right.
Yeah,
Well, thank you. See
thanks everybody for listening to us, and see you next time.
you next time. Bye.